Good morning, everyone. Today, my group of five is going to present on the financial analysis of HBL and Banyan. So today, we're going to have three agenda: the analysis, overview, comparison of ratios, and conclusion. So firstly, on Banyan Tree. So we have the financial performance for 3 years on three categories: net sales, cost of sales, as well as gross profit. So firstly, for 2014, you can tell that the three categories actually have a decrease. And why is that so? This can actually cause a slowdown in business due to the political unrest in Thailand, and also on top of that, because of the fees of design and architectural fees in China. So next, for 2015, there's actually an increase on three categories. This actually is due to the hotel stoppages in projects, and therefore causes it to be written off as expenses. And on top of that, the explanatory notes in 2015 is also in line with the higher property unit sales. And lastly, the marginal increase of gross profit of 0.2% is due to the decrease in revenue of hotel segments in spa and gallery. Next, I'm going to pass on to Timothy.
Thank you, Eunice. Now we're doing on the financial analysis for Hotel Properties Limited. From the graph, we can observe a constant decline in sales, cost of sales, and gross profit over the 3 years. By analyzing the rate of change, we can observe a sharper and faster decline in gross profit compared to sales and cost of sales respectively. This might imply a general decline in business volume, which will be explained further later. With no significant changes in cost of sales, we can assume that the same suppliers were engaged throughout the 3 years, and that a general decline in business volume could be responsible for the decline in gross profit. This can be seen in 2015, where HPL experienced higher financing costs from completion of their properties, and also a decline in sales for private residential properties by half in the same year. And now we're passing on to Chawang.
Thank you, Tim. Now let us move on to compare the financial ratios for both companies. Firstly, let's take a look at accounts payable turnover. From the graph, we can see that HPL's ratio have been decreasing over the past 3 years. As for Banyan Tree, it has been fluctuating, with 2015 being the highest. We can explain HPL's decrease in this ratio by deducing that the company has been trying to retain cash on hand. This is because in 2013, the company's cash and bank balances were at a mere 3.8% of its total assets. Now let us move on to look at accounts receivable. From the graph, we can see that the ratios for both companies are lower than that of the industry average, especially Banyan Tree. We can deduce that Banyan Tree may be giving out too much credit to its customers, or that the customers are taking too long to pay. To solve this problem, Banyan Tree can rework and tighten its credit policies and encourage creditors to pay at a faster rate by providing purchase discount. Now I'll move on to Priscilla.
Thank you, Chow. I'll now be talking about total assets turnover. As you can see from this graph, both companies are actually doing lower than the industrial average. But Banyan is actually doing slightly better than HBL. HBL value could not be comparable to Banyan because they are actually holding on to too much assets. Net sales is low due to the high buy-in of assets, or their average total sales is low. And I'll now be talking about the acid test ratio. As you can see from this graph, Banyan Tree is actually quite consistent throughout in terms of their liquidity to convert their current assets into cash when needed. And this actually presents that higher capability of dissolving current liability within a short time frame. As for HBL, they're actually lower than industrial average because they're actually holding on to a considerable amount of property, plant, and equipment of 37.6%. And with this, I'll now pass on to Hui Ting.
Thank you, Priscilla. Next, we'll look at the solvency condition of both hotels using the debt to equity ratio. Figures show that HPL actually has a stronger equity position with better ability to pay off the debt, as their ratio is lower than industry average and much lower than Banyan Tree, whose assets are actually mainly contributed by the creditors instead. So, finally, the ultimate purpose of a business is of course to be profitable. Looking at the return on total assets ratio chart, HPL over here is definitely doing a better job than Banyan Tree. Though both are declining over the years, HPL still managed to generate profits from the usage of their assets, while Banyan Tree is making a loss seen in year 2015. To conclude, both companies' businesses are actually declining over the 3 years, but due to different issues. For HPL, it is the lack of property sales, while for Banyan Tree, it is due to the rising cost of goods sold. For both companies to improve their financial performance moving ahead, they need to work on this mentioned area. Thank you.